This is Dropping Hints.
I'm Alex.
I'm Silas.
In this podcast, you'll catch a glimpse of our everyday conversations.
We were just talking about our professors, and we said to ourselves, we should do a podcast about that, about our experience with our professors.
Just off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
No planning.
About our professors, about our time in school. Not really our time in school. Our time with our professors is what I mean. And just weird, wacky crap that happened. Or just like unique things, or professors that we really liked, professors that really liked us, students that absolutely loved us because we'll get there.
Because we were tutors. Only one of us.
I mean, I'm legally employed as a tutor now, but that's beside the point.
Legally? Do we need to call the legal
again? We've been name dropping him so much, we probably should. I don't know which episode will drop first. Maybe this one or the other one. Doesn't matter.
So I prepared a list of a couple professors, the courses that they taught, and then just a brief synopsis about something that was unique.
You used Excel, didn't you?
I did use Excel.
Of course you did.
I'm big on efficiency.
You're big on a lot of things. Let's talk about that. What is your number? What is your number one? Just not number one professor. I just mean the number one slot. In what is A1? Cell A1.
Professor.
Cool. That was a good one. He was a nice guy.
Oh wait, you want the real professor?
I want
because I gave headings.
Depends on if it's FAU or BC.
Oh, I didn't sub.
You don't have to
categorize.
You don't have to color code them or anything like that. Just.
Okay, well, the first professor I have on my list, okay, he's kind of a cool guy. His name is Pete Scarlatos, okay? We just called him Scarlatos. So, except those of us that were more friendly with him, then we called him Pete. So I called him Pete.
Peter.
Me and Pete, we were pals.
Pedro.
But he taught 2 civil engineering core courses, okay? Structural analysis, and he taught also hydrology. Or no, it wasn't hydraulic. He taught hydraulics. It was that one.
Very different.
They are very different. But this guy taught hydraulics and structural analysis. So, which those are very different.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this guy Pete, he's like 100 years old. Okay, he's really old. And he was from Greece.
He was from Greece, okay. So he changed citizenship.
I don't know. He lives here. He was from Greece, okay.
Right.
And so he was known as like the toughest professor in the whole civil engineering department. Like this guy was a nightmare to take classes with. No one got a good grade in his class unless you were a freak.
He was like freak.
so stupidly smart. Stupidly smart. Yeah, that's oxymoron.
Where are you going with this, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know. But so he had a reputation of being like a really really tough professor, and no one passed his class with a good grade, and most of the kids had to take him twice or whatever, or try to avoid him at all costs. But he was usually the only person teaching.
Of course. That's how they get you.
They get you with those. So a couple of occasions, okay, I said I was pretty good friends with him, all right? And, in addition to just, like, chatting about the class or whatever, he and I would often, like, shoot the breeze about, like, what's going on in the world and life or whatever. He loved talking about Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Oh, man.
I thought it was really funny. I just went along with it.
Of course you did.
I wasn't really, like, a huge fan of...
But you were trying to get a good grade, you know what I'm saying?
So you just make conversation.
So do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So there was a few times when we would have an exam. Okay, we only had 3 exams in this class. Okay, so they're high stakes. And this is turning into a long story.
Yeah.
Long story short.
I'm like 7 minutes in. What do you got?
Long story short. Basically, this guy would hand back the exams to us, and on several occasions, he'd hand back mine to me, and as in doing so, he'd like extend, like shake my hand or whatever, shake hands, and be like, pleasure doing business with you, and giving back my exam, on which I got a pretty high grade, like in the 90s on this exam. It's like, pleasure doing business with you, son.
Son.
But it was just hilarious because he did this in front of everyone in the whole class so that everyone saw it, and so they knew that I was like teacher's pet, but I didn't care.
They're like, please, can I get some of that? None of my professors like called me out like that. I had one for American history up to 1877. Super smart guy, just a funny, nice fella. His name was Dr. Donovan, and he was at Broward College.
Donovan.
Dr. Donovan. He kind of talked a little bit like this, and that was like Roger Healy.
Yes.
The point is, he was like, he was giving back our like research papers at the end. I wrote a research paper about the Battle of the Wilderness. Yeah, it's a Civil War battle, and
Really?
he gave it back to us, and everybody in my row got hundreds on the research paper. So apparently it wasn't that hard, but everybody got hundreds on the research paper, and he's like, another 100. You guys should drink whatever this row is taken. And then he like gives us back our papers. And we're just like,
Drink whatever this row is taking.
yeah, that's what he said, and everyone's just like, like, okay. Nobody ever like it was American history, so I mean, if you were trying in the lowest semblance of the word, if you were trying at all, you would be fine.
Yeah. Oh man, my history professor. Oh man, you just reminded me. I didn't have him on the list. He was the worst.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
He just gave people bad grades.
He's the one.
Just because.
He's
just
the one
to spite them.
who gave you a B.
Yeah. One of the few.
I've never gotten one of those.
But yeah, it was.
What was
rough.
it like?
I don't remember, honestly.
No, I mean like having a B.
Oh.
What was that like? I don't know what that's like.
Fine. Okay, sorry. Well, maybe you should.
Just being facetious here.
Maybe you should be a little more humble.
I'm not actually
So, We yeah. So I had another professor who loved talking about. He was a professor for Calc 2. His name was Yuan Lin.
Dr. Lin.
Dr. Lin, professor for Calculus 2. Okay. High level math. Okay. Very important in the world.
Almost the highest.
But he would love talking. First of all, he'd always ask us about Trump. Okay. So that was just funny off the bat that he was so
And he's
interested.
from China.
Yeah. He was always curious about, what we thought and, what we perceived. So he would always ask us just questions about that. But he would always say things like, you need calculus so that when there's a missile coming, you can aim your guns and shoot down the missiles. I'm just like, what? All of us are just like, huh?
Interesting analogy, but 100% true. All the
Very
computers
true.
do instantaneous
You
calculus.
need calculus to shoot down the missiles.
All these people that be saying, "Oh, calculus."
Yeah.
I mean, I thought division was stupid, and I never used division
Oh
or
man,
factoring.
what
but
bugs
calculus,
me
it's
is when
like,
people say,
ugh.
"Oh, who needs the Pythagorean theorem?" It's like,
I'm like,
every
literally
realm
like,
of society that is
based
based
upon
upon
like
Pythagoras.
literally every class that I have taken since I learned the Pythagorean theorem, except history, has in some way referenced the Pythagorean theorem.
Don't be
sleeping on the Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah. Don't be sleeping on Pythagoras.
My calculus 3 professor was one of the worst.
Oh boy.
He was a nice fella. He was a nice guy. He would come in and he would try to just be like it's like he was trying to be like friendly and cool and like, but like when someone's trying to be cool and they like lean up against the wall and they like slip and it's wet paint, it's like that's what he was basically like. So he comes in 15 minutes late every single class. And
well, he knows half the students are going to be late anyway.
He didn't know that day one, but he was still late.
He's just smarter than everyone else.
Something happened, and like he came in, and I don't remember what happened, but we all everybody in the class instantaneously realized, oh crap! Like some of them weren't so kind.
What's the drop date for
like,
this class?
Yeah, everybody was instantaneously like, oh no, this is one of those classes. Because this guy, he would write so tiny on the board. His hand would. I hope he was okay.
Yeah.
I think he's okay. He's not very old.
Yeah.
But his hand would shake a lot. I don't know if he was like, and he sweat a lot. I don't know if he was nervous. But
it's
like,
pretty nerve-wracking being up in front of all those college
he
students.
just could not explain it. And well, they weren't all college students because they only like 4 of us ended up coming to class consistently the whole semester. And it was just because I was already there. I was like, okay, I might as well go to class. Obviously, I'm not just gonna skip for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 2 high schoolers in that class that came to every single class. And I'm like, first off, what are you
Freaking geniuses.
You're freaking 17-year-old. Why are you in calculus 3? I mean, I was like 19, so I wasn't that much older than them. But I was like,
you're like,
just
show
like,
off.
one of them was going to like the Juilliard School of Music, and I'm like, why are you here?
Because
like,
you know when you're doing the cello action,
she actually was a singer, like opera. She wasn't my friend. I didn't really talk to her that much.
Wow. Okay.
But I know that she was an opera
Silas
singer.
doesn't like opera singers.
I'm not gonna lie.
Nothing to say about that.
So, but he was like just wouldn't explain things very well at all. Only like few people came. Day after the test is posted, I did really, really good. It was like a 3-question test. That's usually how like calculus tests are. It's like 3 questions, part A, B, C, D, E, F, Z, and I got like 100 on it. And somebody in the day after the test, of course, the whole class comes. There's like 30 of us in there.
Right.
They're all
looking
talking.
for extra credit.
I'm sitting in the front row just doing my thing, which is just sitting there doing nothing, waiting for the professor to show up. And someone's like, yo, he posted grades, who got 100? And everyone's looking around. I'm just like, it was me. And they're all just like,
just own it.
what did you do? I'm like, Professor Leonard on YouTube.
Yes. I've cited him multiple times.
I had to teach myself Calculus 3 with Professor Leonard. Thank you very much.
He is Superman.
Incredible.
Yeah. Professor Leonard, you're on
You're
YouTube.
We love you.
Legal and Professor Leonard.
They're the best.
Collabs.
Yeah.
Well, we also, so we didn't just take a lot of high-level math and science.
I mean, yeah.
stuff.
That's
We
where
also
we're at
took
now.
basic stuff.
Yeah.
And we, so I took a theater appreciation course.
Didn't we all?
Yes, theater appreciation, which I had to go see plays for that from Broward College.
Yeah.
Broward College plays that they wrote and produced, pretty strange.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Maybe that's a topic for another time, but yeah, it definitely made me walk out of the theater thinking, why did I just sit through an hour and a half of whatever that was? Anyway, but
Modern art.
but my theater appreciation professor, his name was James Bond. And that, like, you remember this guy?
Yeah.
That was his name, and we were like, oh, you changed your name, like, at some point in life. You lost the bet or something. He's like, nah, I'm like, my parents named me James Bond. They thought it would be funny. And here I am 50 years later teaching theater appreciation. And we're just like, you could sense like the defeat in this person. But he owned it. He was like, yeah, like, whatever. Like, it's just,
I mean,
just the name.
If that's your name, you gotta own it.
Yeah.
Like, you introduce yourself, and they're like, what's your name? Bond. James Bond.
Yeah, he didn't say that. And when we would try to like throw like, little jokes of like, oh yeah, like James Bond, like, oh, you gonna like come in through the roof or something next time, like drop in like a secret agent, he would be like, yeah, that's not funny. And we were just like, okay. But yeah, he was like, just, his name was like, wow, okay.
I had my music appreciation teacher who would always talk about the Renaissance. and we have the Romantic era, and then we have the Renaissance coming in here, and there's a lot of new musical ideas coming into play with some of these weird atonal thing. That wasn't the Renaissance, that was John Cage. But the point is, his name was Professor Zawinski, or he said, call me Professor Z.
Professor.
He's like, tell them Professor Z sent you.
It sounds like one of the X-Men or something.
Yeah, I'm like, Professor Z. Okay, I can roll with this guy. He had
Charles
like,
Xavier.
he literally had like 2 full letter grades of extra credit. Literally 2 full letter grades of extra credit. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. That's we also took a lot of the same professors you and I took, and fun fact, also the Hintze legacy, the siblings of the Hintze legacy was that we had a lot of the same professors.
Yeah.
And it was better than, it was more reliable than Rate My Professor.
Yeah,
If you had a sibling that took them. But you and I both took Barry McFarlane. Or as I like to call him, Barry Mac. Which was, we called him that in class.
Yeah, somebody rolled into class one day and said, whose class is this? And I instinctively just replied, Barry Mac. And didn't even think about it. And then like 2 seconds later, I was like, that's not his name. Like, his name is Barry McFarlane.
Right.
It was like, I hope they got it.
But it was just, again,
term of endearment.
We become almost like, buddies.
Cordial.
With it's a very cordial
you roll
relationship.
in and Barry Mac will be like, oh,
for
Alex,
a couple months, you're just
hello.
friends with your professor. And so, we had Barry Mac teaching trigonometry.
What did you take him for?
Trigonometry.
You didn't take him for calculus?
No.
I took him for calculus. Huh. That's why I got this stuff about the derivative. That's how we would talk. The derivative.
Yeah, please do your impression.
At the instantaneous point. Just that. We're taking the first derivative. I'm going to come in, what I was going to do. That's the slope of the line. That's what you got. That's how we would talk.
Spot on. That's how he spoke.
He always moved his hands like this.
But you see, it's memorable. But again, he was the one that inspired me to get into engineering.
Really?
Actually, yes, he sounded very interested in that.
I didn't know.
Really? Yeah. He said, "Hey, have you ever considered engineering?" And I was like, I will because I respect you. So
respect. I took him for calculus 1, and he was an excellent calculus teacher. Really, really made it completely understandable. My trigonometry teacher, all the other math courses before calculus that I took were with the same math teacher. Her name was Kyla Williams. Kyla Williams. She was incredible. She was so funny, and she was very young. She was like early 40s, I want to say. She was very young, and
it is a very funny age.
What?
I don't know.
And she was like, what? Okay, the point is, she was like, she would always say, whenever she would be like doing the examples on the page, she'd just be like writing it, and then someone from the back would be like, extra credit, and she'd just look up and be like, y'all tripping. And I keep writing. Everyone was just like, y'all tripping? And one time somebody she got she said something like, oh, like test is this Friday or something like that. And somebody took Jesus's name in vain, and they were like, and they said it. And she was like, what? You don't swear with the name of Jesus? And I was like, this lady's the best.
You get a preaching math teacher right there.
Y'all tripping.
Y'all tripping.
Like, tripping? What the heck?
Yeah, we also had, we can't, finish this off without talking about probably the most famous of all shared
professors that all of us will know.
That all of us
Ethan,
siblings
Alex,
have taken.
Me, Savannah. I think Savannah. Maybe not Savannah, but definitely Augusta and down.
Dr. Melinda Shoemaker. Psychology.
They're not tests. They're cocktail parties. That was her gimmick.
Yes.
She called tests cocktail parties.
This lady she lived her psychology course.
Oh, yeah.
She lived every aspect of it. She would come in and demonstrate the various personality types and traits and things like that, the various psychological things that she was trying to teach us. She would demonstrate that to us through very vivid and expressive examples. Like, she would act them out. And that was just very, like, surprising, because this is one of the first classes
first semester class
that I took. And walking in the class, and she comes in, and immediately she's just like firing off. Like, I'm like, I'm scared.
You're very frightened the first semester because you don't know how to log into D2L or Canvas or whatever.
No.
You don't know how to do that. You don't know where to go.
Yes.
You don't know where the bathrooms are. You don't know who anybody is. Everybody's just kind of you're just like a bunch of fish in like a barrel waiting for a shotgun to go off. And then that shotgun is Melinda Shoemaker coming in talking about how, and Freud said that if you do this, then you'll end up with
she
that.
loved talking about sexuality.
That's all. I mean, that's all that humanistic psychology is based in.
And most of the class enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah, and
so
we're just sitting there like first semester out of the house, and we're like
sheltered homeschoolers, like sitting there like,
what's happening? So
people talk about this.
But we all did well in her class, I think, and I was the last one to go through.
Yeah.
And
she's an amazing professor.
Yeah, made
it very easy to understand all the things about psychology that we needed to know for the class, and no complaints whatsoever.
No, yeah.
It was surprising the level of energy that she brought to her job. It was like, it's a good thing, but just a little surprising. But yeah, each one of us took her. She remembered us. She remembered our family name of like, the Hintze. Hintze. Yeah. Because I remember I took her and I said, hey, my brother and sisters took you. And she's like, yeah, I remember them. They were good students.
Wow.
And
homeschoolers.
Homeschoolers are good students. So
I can't. There's two stories that I need to tell. And they're not long stories, but they're both about chemistry professors, which, if you don't freaking know at this point, that's what I study.
All right, sure.
One of them, all right. I'm pulling out my Berry Mac, One of them was for organic chemistry too, and her name was Dr. Mamari. Such a nice lady, and she was like, we were in lab one day. We were synthesizing sunscreen, believe it or not. And
that's useful.
Yeah. Who knew that science and math could be useful?
Yeah.
So she was sitting there, and she was the one who actually like wrote the lab notebook for that course. You know how they have like what's the word? Custom lab books for
I know.
campuses. I mean, but do you? So that's what she was doing. She was actually like revising it for the second edition and stuff like that. And so everybody's like running around doing their things in the lab, doing their whatevers. And she's sitting there like looking, like this, like writing, trying to think of how she can revise it. She's got glasses, she's looking down the glasses, and she just looks up and she goes, she has an Indian accent. She's like, Silas, come here. And I'm like looking around. I'm wearing like a full lab coat and all that crap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I take it off and I'm like, okay. Like, yes, Dr. Mamari, how can I help you today? She's like, what do you think that I should say? Then you mix solutions and put them in the beaker. And I was like, well, I don't think that is necessarily like, I don't think it's necessary to say that you have to put them in that specific container. It's kind of implied, and I think that most people at this point in organic chemistry too would know that. And she literally is looking down, and she just looks up at me through her glasses, like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, she didn't say anything, but I was just like, yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, most people won't know that.
She's like. And I was like, is that all? She's like, yeah, just let me know if you have like changes you think I should make to lab manual, And I was like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's the dream right there.
I know. And my organic chemistry 1 professor, this was my favorite professor. Really? I'll let you talk about your favorite professor if you have one in a second. But my favorite professor was Dr. Betts. Broward College, Organic Chemistry 1. And he was also a really tough professor that like people like didn't like taking because he wasn't going to let you pass unless you actually understood the chemistry. So he was sitting there, and there were, again, like a posse of 3 high schoolers. Like these 3 high school girls that were in it, the 17-year-olds just like chilling over there. And
brainiacs.
I'm like, I mean, at the time I'm 18, so I'm not like, I'm like still like a freshman in college, so I'm like not much different than they are. But I'm still like, you guys aren't even in, like,
That's
you're still
the
in high
spirit,
school.
Silas. We're all the same.
Well, yeah. Right. So he would always ask questions during class, and if you didn't answer a question, like, he didn't care if you answered the question in class right or wrong. He just wanted to engage. And so if you didn't answer the question, he would give you a pop quiz. Not you, the whole class. He would give the whole freaking class a pop quiz. So everybody learned right quick to answer the questions and just throw out your answers, even if they're wrong. And sometimes you threw out an answer and it was right, and he would explain why. And sometimes you threw it out and it was wrong, and he's like, nope, that's
You're
not
stupid.
it. Well, he didn't say that, but he didn't say that's okay. He was just like, nope, that's not it. And he was a nice guy if you could see the niceness in him. He was very nice.
Yeah.
So, but he walks, I don't know why, but he always like he didn't always, but I think that he just found it amusing to like almost like torment these high schoolers because a lot of times in class, sometimes it would just be over there and he would just be like giggling, and he would just like, he always stood with his hands in his pockets and his like elbows flared out, and he would just like kind of like turn their direction and just be like, yep. And they would just be giggling about something. They'd be like, nothing. And he's like, and so he one time like really picked on them to answer this question.
Yeah.
And I knew the answer to it. He said, does anybody know the answer to this question? And we spent the whole class deciphering this question. I knew the answer to the question because I read ahead. So I knew the answer, and he was like,
the benefit of reading ahead.
yeah, he's like, does anybody know the answer?
There's
I'm
your
like,
hint for the day.
yeah, read ahead. I'm like, I know the answer, but it's because I read ahead. And he's just, and it was silent, and he's looking at me and he's like, so do you want to help them? I was like, well, I mean, yeah, sure. But I mean,
well, I thought you were going to.
I was like, I assume you don't just want me to tell them the answer. And so he was like really like picking on these 3 high schoolers, trying to get them to like just give some kind of information that is logical in the realm of chemistry. And they are like, he asked them like a direct question as like a precursor to the other question. And one of them's like, and she looks at me and he goes, no, Silas, look at me. And he's like, what is the answer to this question? And she's like, and then he's like, Silas, what is the answer to that question? I don't remember what the question was, but I was just like,
methane or something.
Like, SP3. just said whatever the answer was.
Yeah.
And then he left the next day, and he was like, if I don't come back, Silas can teach.
Yeah.
And then left. And then he did come back. But everybody just looked at me, and I was like, I'm just a man. Like,
I had a couple times when the professor was like, he asked the class for feedback on something or an example problem that they wanted to solve or something, and he would, the same guy, Pete Scarlatos, as you asked me about my favorite professor, it's a tough choice. I really love all of the like civil engineering professors. They're all just amazing.
Oh.
I can't pick like a favorite out of all of them, but Pete used to give me the marker. He'd just walk up and hand it to me.
wow.
In a way of like, he wouldn't say anything. He'd just hand me the marker and point at the board.
Wow.
And then I just stand up and go and try to solve it. I didn't get them right all the time,
Of course.
I solved, a good deal of
portion
them. And yeah, so he was probably like borderline, like tying for the first runner. There was also another guy who, his name was Soban, okay, Dr. Soban. And this guy, man, he taught about dirt, okay?
Soil mechanics.
Soil mechanics,
Nice.
foundations, like all that stuff relating to engineering, the dirt. And I found it so fascinating, man. I don't know what it is about dirt. It's fascinating.
Worms eat dirt.
What?
I think he's a mole. I think he eats the dirt. Moles don't eat dirt.
There's all
Worms
different kinds of dirt, Silas.
Right.
It's millions of different types
Sand,
of soil.
silt, gravel.
Yes. Gravel's
so
dirt. Many. But anyway, so this guy used to go around. He used to stomp on the ground when he wanted to make a point, like just one big foot, boom, like stomp on the ground. And his catchphrase was, "Soil has a memory." And he would just run around, stomp on the ground, "Soil has a memory." And he would say that all the time because that was a foundational principle of soil mechanics, is this idea that soil, in a way, has a memory. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. But that was one of the principal things, and that was just his catchphrase, and it was hilarious to watch him. He just like shouted at us, but he wasn't angry. He just like gets so intensely passionate about this that he just starts shouting, and then he'd come back down and be in a soft spoken tone like this. And so I loved him. He was so enthusiastic about it. He also taught about pavement, asphalt, it's just a lot of boring things to people who aren't in the civil engineering field, and even some in the civil engineering
field.
But I thought they were so fascinating. But yeah,
if you guys haven't figured out, we're definitely like we're academics, straight up.
Yeah, we are pretty smart.
I was like, we were talking about it honestly, and we were like, how are we gonna just say like that we're freaking, honestly, like brainiacs, like without just saying that?
Well, for me, I find that I'm so passionate about specifically civil engineering and the topics in that to me it doesn't feel like it's a burden to learn these new things. So my mindset, I think, is what gets me to this place of I love to learn, I love to study, I love to be challenged and go through these new things and try to educate myself and to learn from other people about it. And it fuels me. And so I think that's why I kind of went towards the engineering field, which is, a more difficult field, math and science heavy. So, but yeah, for me, it's just like, I'm so passionate about this stuff. I can't imagine not being around this stuff, not knowing what I know and not continuing that knowledge. So
yeah, I can't.
And I'm not trying to like put it out there of like, yeah, like I know all these things. Like, yeah, there's a lot that I don't know.
Well,
clearly.
Of course. I mean, you just got a bachelor's degree,
right?
Which is like the foundational level of education to work anywhere. I don't even have a bachelor's degree, but boy, do I love organic chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one day you'll have your own flow chart like this that you can cross off.
Well, mine's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, because you like efficiency, right?
Something along those lines.
But like this artifact was, I got this when I first started at FAU in 2017, which was only 3 years ago, but I just kept it in my backpack for those 3 years. And every single class that I took, check it off with a highlight. All right, I checked that one, moving on to the next one. And so like it's, you go through the flow chart, and for me it was like a goal of like, all right, next one, until finally I did them all. I completed the flow chart. Yeah. And then they changed the flow chart to a different type where it's like you take different classes. So I should have this framed and put next to my diploma.
It's like a stain right there.
I don't know what that is, but
you only took one chemistry class.
Oh yeah, I
should shred this.
I took environmental engineering, which there's a lot of organic chemistry in that.
Really?
I learned the IUPAC.
The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry.
I did learn that naming schematic. Yes.
Nice.
So
like 2-methylpropane.
that was a hard chemistry flex right there.
That's not a flex at all. That's like basic information that every chemist has to know. But no, good flex.
IUPAC.
I was tutoring somebody one time, not to tangent, but I was tutoring somebody one time, and she was like, I was like, this is how you name this. You have to name it like this, yada, yada. It was a sugar. It was like glucose or something. And we were putting it into like glucose, and glucose being, I don't remember what that is, fructose. So I don't know.
Okay.
You know, you put them together. And she was like, who comes up with all this stuff? And I was like, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. And I wrote it on the board. I was like, IUPAC. And she was like, of course you have the answer right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and with you, like, you love tutoring. Like,
So much.
you love teaching what you know, and so
To people like me,
I would
they're
imagine
like
that you
my
love
age.
learning new
I'm
things.
just like them, yeah. And I
Yeah.
just love explaining like these things that I know to somebody else, and they're
Yeah.
like, I get it, I understand. I'm like, I know, isn't it great to understand? It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes your professor doesn't let you, but sometimes it's difficult to understand.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I can pass on any knowledge I can and just help somebody out, I'm like, yeah. I don't even, just classmates, I don't have to like be being paid to tutor them. It's just like somebody's like, I don't get this, and I'm like, I don't know for sure, but I'll do the best I can to explain to you why it is that way.
Yeah.
And then I do, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm like, if that's wrong on the test, don't come back and crucify me.
Yeah. But I think that's what it is. I think that we're just, two guys that are very passionate about each respective what we specialize in. And that it's, specialize. But we're just so passionate about it that we love to learn about it. We love to talk about it. And it's something that fuels us. To me, like, my job in engineering, like, it doesn't feel like a job. And that's really something that is a blessing to me, of like, I get to do something that I love to do. And I'm not stuck somewhere where it's like I don't see a future of myself progressing here. This civil engineering is something that it's like, wow, there's so much area for growth and to go new places to develop and be better. And so I think it's that's the mindset that I wish other people shared, is that let's learn. Let's get better.
WLRN, we learn together.
You don't know so much, so you should figure out what you don't know.
And the more you know,
the less you don't know.
You don't know.
What is that from?
Siblings of the Sun.
Oh my
goodness. From that episode of Monk.
Yeah.
Where he joins a cult,
Yeah.
and it's called the Siblings of the Sun.
Another
You
story.
almost referenced that earlier when you said the Siblings of the Hintze. I think you thought
Yeah.
of Siblings of the Sun,
I probably did.
which is the cult from that episode of Monk.
subconsciously.
Howie Mandel runs the cult. He's not Howie
Yeah.
Mandel. He's Father.
I can't remember.
He's just Father. That's what they call him.
Yeah.
It's a cult. What do you expect?
So anyway, yeah, I think
With that,
listen, all these professors that I took, I may have had one or two bad apples, but I don't know. People give professors a hard time these days, but
yeah.
I think it's a two-way street. You gotta do your part learning. Professors got to do their part teaching. You got to do your part learning.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You just gotta learn as best you can, get what help you can,
Mm-hmm.
and the professor just has to test you on what he teaches you, and that's it.
And maybe you one day.
I hope so. I would love to teach chemistry at Broward College one day.
Broward College, if you're listening.
I mean, maybe that's not my end goal, but like it would be neat if
We're
I
in the
just
end
happened
game
to
now.
end up there. I would love to be a professor anywhere, tenured, obviously.
Obvi. So, yeah. Professors, great people.
Most of the time. So we were just gonna start let's talk about.
Is this the start, or are we about to start?
We're about to start. This is not
Okay.
the start. Yeah. But
We're already a minute and 26 in.
it's fine. I can cut it. It doesn't matter. But it's like,
Well, I was thinking about our professors the other day.
no, you weren't. You were thinking about them just now, and we said let's do a podcast about them.
So that's
what I'm gonna
is.
say. I'll start
Okay.
it. You've been starting them. You started the first two. Okay, I'm starting this one.
Fine, go ahead. No one says you can't start it.
Maybe I'm gonna put all this in.
At the very end.
This is like an extra little tidbit for the one who stayed.
Yeah,
The
after
one
you fade
singular.
to black. Yes.